What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another page from the playbook. This is Nate coming at you guys with another team in the 32 NFL offseasons in 32 days. Today's team, San Francisco 49ers. Before we get into today's video, guys, I just want to give a special shout out to today's sponsors, starting with Gold Fine and Bowles, lawyers for the injured. Personal injury, workers' compensation, those are their two things, but any sort of legal advice, they're the people to call. Give them a phone call, 309-673-5144. Tell them we sent you, okay? And I'd also like to shout out SeatGeek for sponsoring today's video as well. Use promo code PlaybookSports on their website to get $20 off your first purchase of $30 or more. Let's get back to the video. Always the bridesmaid, never the bride, huh, 49ers fans? Hey, listen, don't get me wrong. I do not feel bad for you guys. You get no sympathy from me at all. Not a bit. 4 straight NFC Championship games, 2 Super Bowl appearances. Even without a ring, you have been spoiled, okay? Let's not act like we're victims here. You're not. A lot of people going into last season questioning Brock Purdy, thinking, nah, there's no way he can repeat what he did his rookie year. Is a magical Jeremy Lin type run. He will not do it again. And he comes out and balls, man. Comes out and solidifies himself as the guy. I want to say he's the leader in QBR on the season. Up there in passing yards, played great, played truly great, and everyone's going to continue to question him because he's got good players around him. Who cares? It's the system he's in, and in that system, I don't live in fantasy land. I don't know how he'll look on the Panthers. Doesn't matter. He's not on the freaking Panthers. Just enjoy it. Just enjoy the football he is playing in the system he is in. So, even though he lost the Super Bowl, I still think they got their guy for a long time. Eventually they'll pay him. They don't have to yet. They're still paying him in coupons as a Mr. Irrelevant pick. So, how do you guys get over this hump, right? Niners, how do you guys get to the altar and get your ring? Metaphorically and physically, literally, get your ring. So let's talk about the moves they've made this offseason, starting with coaches fired and hired, right? They've fired Steve Wilks after kind of an odd year where Shanahan forced him out of the booth to come down and coach on the sidelines, and he openly questioned a call a blitz of his that ended up resulting in a touchdown. It never felt like those two meshed, Shanahan and Wilks. It never felt like Wilks was running a defense the way that Shanahan thought it should be run. And so they got rid of him. And it was smart of Shanahan to move on quickly rather than let it and this discontent potentially ruin a season next year. I like that. And then he went ahead and promoted Nick Sorensen, who has been there for the last 2 seasons. He worked as a defensive assistant and DB's coach. I really think that since he's been there for a few seasons, I think that this was a move by Shanahan to bring back the DeMeco Ryans style defense. I think that Sorensen working under him and learning from DeMeco Ryan, I think that the kind of goal there is, all right, let's get back to what we did in 2022, not necessarily what we did in 2023, even though their defense was still really good. They just got so much talent. So I like that move. I don't know anything about Sorensen as a DC. He's never done it before, so it's hard to say it's a positive move, but it can't really be a negative move either because Wilks had to go. It wasn't working with Wilks. He had to go. So we'll call this one net even and jump into players lost. Honestly, not as much turnover as you might think. I do think, though, they had 3 players that they lost that were all getting decent looks on the defensive line. All 3 from the defensive line position. And we're going to start with defensive lineman Eric Armstead. Signed a big contract in Jacksonville. I think it was 3 years, $51 million. Maybe something like that. It was good money. It was real good money. Did I write it somewhere? He got $15 million a year. Let's go with that. How about that? Ended a 9-year run in San Francisco. I think it was smart to do this. You can't pay everybody. And he's absolutely not at the top of your priority list of people you have to pay when you've got superstars at other positions that have to get paid. There's just no way they could afford that contract for him, so it was smart. Then they let Chase Young walk after last season. He did end up with 8 sacks, which was tied for the most in his career. But again, just not enough to pay him, give him a long-term contract or anything. So he ended up taking a 1-year deal somewhere else. And then they also let Javon Kinlaw walk as well. Former first-round pick, never really took off in this defense. Never really seemed to mesh and grow and develop into the defensive tackle they were hoping. So much. The writing was on the wall last offseason, right? When you go out and you pay Javon Hargrave 4 years, $80 million to play Kinlaw's position, it's like, all right, Kinlaw, clearly you're not cutting it here, so you're probably gone. And he was. Some moves, some defensive linemen you'll have to replace at some point, but it's the Niners. They always have those. Let's talk about players that they added. And I'm actually going to start by mentioning the most recent move that they made, which was extending running back Christian McCaffrey, giving him 2 years added on, paying him, I believe, $19 million a year, so setting the new bar for the top running back. He's just an absolute weapon. He deserves that. He absolutely deserves that. I think he is their most important offensive player at this point. At least he was this past season. He did everything, including winning me my fantasy league championship. So I think it was smart to bring him back. And then we talk about their free agent additions. Initially, I thought that they overpaid for edge rusher Leonard Floyd from Buffalo. I saw $10 million a year. I was like, ooh, no, too much. But then I started doing just a little more research on it. I think it's actually a solid move, honestly. Double-digit sacks 3 of the last 4 seasons. Number of edge rushers are getting paid way more to produce way less. So if you can get 10 sacks again, you got 10 sacks last year, only playing, I think, 53% of their defensive snaps. And he was able to get double-digit sacks. So you got to imagine that number gets up just a little bit. Playing on the other side from Nick Bosa, should see I'm not calling a 15-sack season, but it wouldn't shock me. How about that? So for $10 million, that's pretty dang solid. Even if he's just a rotational pass rusher on third downs, he's still going to obviously be very effective at doing that. However, I do think that they overpaid for defensive end Yetur Gross-Matos, making $9 million a year, so $1 million a year less than Leonard Floyd is, who's had 3 double-digit sack seasons in the last 4 years. And Yetur Gross-Matos has never had a season with more than 5 sacks. And he's only getting $1 million less. I don't understand that one. I get he's young, but I just don't see it. I don't see it. It hasn't shown me anything to suggest $9 million a year. And you could say, oh, well, he didn't get the snaps. He had 846 snaps in 2022, and he got 3 sacks. That's not good. Obviously, that's straight up terrible. So I just don't love that signing at that cost, but maybe I'm wrong. Maybe they can coach him up. Who knows what they can do with him. So I think talent in, talent out, kind of even again. Honestly, kind of a net even again. So let's talk draft. 31st pick of the draft. The San Francisco 49ers shocked me. I did not see wide receiver Ricky Pearsall going at pick 31, I'll be honest. I had a early to mid second round grade on him, so seeing him in the first round before guys like Xavier Legette, before A.D. Mitchell, before Ladd McConkey kind of shocked me. I don't think this is a big reach. He really does feel like a Shanahan kind of guy in the Shanahan offense, right? The Shanahan offense loves to attack the middle of the field. That's where this guy thrived at Florida, was over the middle of the field. But you've also got Debo and Ayuk, who can both play over the middle, and you've got McCaffrey, and you've got Kittle. Like, you got so many weapons. There's so many mouths to feed, and now you've got another first-round receiver, and my concern is that you just brought in a wide receiver 3, which, I mean, yeah, he's a fantastic wide receiver 3, but what does this mean for Ayuk and Debo? That's to be seen. I also think that they did well in the second round, getting Renardo Green, corner out of Florida State. Good size for the position, very versatile, strong tackler, heavy hitter. He can be a little bit too aggressive, honestly, but I like an aggressive corner. That's why you got a safety over the top, right? So I can be aggressive. No, I'm just kidding. But seriously, like, I like that you take the chances. Go win me this football game. Don't just not lose me this football game. That's my mentality. Always has been. But I really do think he can be solid in the 49ers defense. They just continue to grow talented corners. It's unbelievable. But I do want to say their best value pick, in my opinion, was Malik Mustafa, safety out of Wake Forest. I had him as a late second, maybe early third if he fell a little bit. But getting him at the 24th pick of the 4th round is an insane steal. Like, that's an insane steal. Excellent in the run game. One of, if not the most physical players in the entire draft class, regardless of position. He could absolutely thrive as a box safety if that's the kind of position they want to put him in. But I do think that he has the instincts to play all over the field. So I like that pick a lot for San Francisco's defense. So they had a handful of picks I didn't love either. Didn't really understand the Jacob Cowing pick. And I didn't love the Dominic Puny pick. So we'll see how those go. But overall, really solid draft by San Francisco that I do think have some players that can contribute right away. I expect Pearsall to see some snaps. I expect Renardo Green to see some snaps. I definitely expect Mustafa to take one of those safety positions and just run with it. I think he's a long-term starter for them. So overall for their draft, I'm giving them a solid B. Not spectacular, not the best, not the worst, but pretty solid. Overall this offseason, when you make 4 straight NFC Championship games, obviously your roster and your coaching staff is incredibly talented. So there's not a whole lot to do here, right? There's just not a whole lot to do here. You don't have to win the offseason like some of these other teams have to do. But it does lead to having to make some tough personnel decisions and letting good players walk because, like I said earlier, you cannot pay everybody. As much as you may want to, you simply cannot do that. I think that today, the 49ers are as good as they were when they lost in the Super Bowl. This is still a Super Bowl or bust football team. They haven't moved the needle enough to make me say they're the new favorites, and they haven't lost enough talent to make me say, I don't know if they're a team anymore in the NFC. They're still a team to beat in the NFC. They're still going to win 13 games next year, and they're still going to be playing in the NFC Championship game. Nothing that they did this offseason changes that, in my opinion. So, the team itself, fantastic. But if I'm just grading their offseason in a vacuum, I see a lot of net even, and I see a solid draft. So their offseason grade, I'm going to give them a B-. Again, that is nothing to say about their team or their chances this year. I still think, like I said, 13 wins, probably back in the Super Bowl. So you're going to be all right, Niners fans. It's okay to not win the offseason. Trust me, I'd much rather do what you guys are doing than win in the offseason. So that's all I've got for you guys on today's team. Tomorrow we'll be talking about the Seattle Seahawks. We'll see you guys in that one.